All right, Sri. I think it's a good time to start.
Okay, hello everyone. Great to have you here. Uh, so this is the Indian Survival Kit and Stereotypes call, and we're really excited to have you here in India. We have prepared a small presentation for you guys to help you, better your stay in India and a few tips as well as your stereotypes. So let's get started. Now, a few weeks ago, we had sent out a survey asking for your stereotypes that you may have on India. We received some excellent answers, and we're trying our best to address all of them here. Now, we've tried and grouped most of the stereotypes so that it's easier to address. In case we have missed some stereotypes, we will address them at the end, and you can ask us if you want more clarifications on the same. So, yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Pranav. So I will be unstereotyping the stereotypes about food, I would say. When we looked at the responses about stereotypes about Indian food, as most of you can guess, most of the answers were about how oily and spicy the food is. And we also got some comments about how we don't have beef here in India, and also that our food is really rich in flavor. Starting off with the oily and spicy food part. So I would say that really depends on the area or the state in which you're having the food, because most of the staple food in India was designed based on the climate of that particular region. So if you're in the north, for example, in the desert state of Rajasthan, they eat a lot of ghee-based and a lot of sweet food that helps them to survive in that climate. But because it's a very, very hot climate. But if you come down south and move towards the state of Andhra Pradesh, they have a very hot and dry climate, and they have like one of the spiciest cuisines in India, and it's even quite spicy for us to eat. So when we go to restaurants based on that particular cuisine, we have to ask them to mild down the flavor because it's even hard for us to eat it. So again, the oily and spicy food depends on the region that the food is based out of. And so in our state, in Indian spice wise, the food is quite mild. It's not that spicy, but it's rich in flavor, and some of the food is oily. And so I think we have a couple of quite good dishes on screen. And the one on the bottom right corner is typical South Indian breakfast. It's called masala dosa, and it's basically it's a little bit oily, but never spicy. It's kind of a bland dish with the red chutney you can see is just a little spiced up version for us to make sure we don't eat all the bland food. And so the other major issue or the stereotype was about beef, that in India we don't have a lot of beef, and this is true, I would say, because beef is religious, like in the sense that the cow is worshipped here in India for all of us Hindus, and so the origins of the worshipping of cow comes from the fact that back in the day, cows provided so much benefit to our society, right from the milk and the milk products to the cow dung was used as manure. So, and the cows were limited in number in the southern parts of India. So all of that, caused that was the origin of why we worship cows and why we give them so much reverence, because their impact on the society was so much and they were so valuable. So that is why that was the origin of why we don't kill and eat cows, and that is kind of stuck on, and now it's become more radicalized, as one would imagine. So in McDonald's or Subway or any of the fancy restaurants, they don't serve beef, but some really fancy 5-star restaurants like maybe Marriott and Sheraton and all those people, they do serve it, but only on request. So if there's a big buffet, they don't leave it out. So you would have to ask them to prepare it. So that's with regard to beef. And that's about it from my side. And also with regard to how rich the food is in flavor, we kind of feel that even when it comes to our sweets, we notice that in Western customs you have only cake and chocolate as sweets, but we have so many different sweets from so many different parts of the country. So some stuff is exquisite even to us. So I would say when you're in India, you should definitely try out all the sweets. It's not just pastries and cakes and bakery items and chocolate. There's a whole bunch of sweets that in so our from our state, the most famous sweet that we have in all festivals is called obbatu. So it's like a pancake, but it's stuffed and it's quite good. We have it with milk and ghee. So I think you guys should try that when you're here. So that's it from my side. I hope I've addressed all the food stereotypes. Now moving on to religion.
Hello everyone, I'm Vinita and I'll be talking about religion. So when I went through the stereotype results, the survey results, I found quite a few really important stereotypes that you guys had. I found I could categorize them into 5 major stereotypes. Let us address them one by one. So the first one was about the caste system. Um, uh, Let me just say that the caste system is not just in people's minds, it does officially exist, but in the sense that there is reservation for backward classes, and that is mainly to uplift them. And that is the official version. The caste system in the true form, the as in extreme discrimination and oppression of people, does not exist anymore. A mild version of it can be seen in extremely rural areas, but not in urban areas. So when you're in Bangalore, you'll not be able to see it, and people in urban areas don't generally experience it. The next one was about spirituality. Again, spirituality as in yoga, ashrams, meditation, and gurus, and its influence on the West. That again can be seen in specific areas. In urban areas like Bangalore, you can't find much of it because there's a mix of people. Some are spiritual, some are um, atheists, but you can find it in places like North India, in a particular state called Uttar Pradesh, where the state is pretty spiritual and it's the main pilgrimage spot for Hindus. Next, let's go to festivals. So, yes, the holidays can last up to several days. This was uh, a significant answer that I found in the survey. And Hinduism is the religion most people are inclined to, but as you probably know, all religions coexist in India, and we fondly address this with the saying unity in diversity, because even though there are people from all religions, all backgrounds, all castes, there is unity, and we try our best to coexist with harmony. Next, diversity. India is multicultural, and when you go to every part of India, you find a different culture. Some of it even we are alien to if we aren't familiar with the place. And it's multilingual. We have different languages specific to different states. In Karnataka, that is the state Bangalore is in, the main language is Kannada. That is most of our mother tongue. And you probably already know Hindi, and that is spoken mostly in the northern side of India and not much in the southern part. And just like this, there are a lot of different languages. We have over 1,500 languages, uh, including the different dialects, but there are a major of 22 languages in India that are officially recognized by the state, by the country, sorry. And the last one is religious intolerance. This is a pretty serious one. You must have seen in the news about religious intolerance, about how the media has portrayed the media's version of it. But the grassroots reality is quite different. People are still welcoming, and the culture of Atithi Devo Bhava is still prevalent. So, this saying of Atithi Devo Bhava is a Sanskrit saying that means all guests are treated like God. And that is something we still follow, and it is maybe not as prevalent as it was before, because the people are a little more radicalized now than before, but it's mm, yeah, I still say that India is a pretty safe place, and uh, the saying of Atithi Devo Bhava is entrenched in our minds, so we're not forgetting that anytime soon. So India is very welcoming, and we look forward to have you guys here. That's it from my side.
Hi guys, this is Smaran. I'm going to talk about some of the questions I found about society and family. Um, so if you can't hear me at any point, just go ahead and tell me. So some of the questions, let's start with the first one that Indians have very large families. Yes, traditionally the concept of joint families is very, very popular in India. You know, you can find two, three, even four generations of the family living in the same house. And usually it's more prominent in rural areas where people live in big houses. And I mean, it's basically something that is being passed on from generations, and it's not seen as something that is uncool or anything like that if you don't move out of the house after a certain age. Joint families are very, very much, common sight in India. However, in urban areas, this is not, it's not quite as much as you can probably see in rural areas because you have, apartment complexes on the rise, and you don't really have, the space for like 20, 15 to 20 people to live in the same household. But yeah, there are some traditional households, big houses where people still live in joint families. The second question was that largely Indians have very little freedom of choice in family matters. Marriages are arranged, and young people can't leave their parents. Well, this really depends on how traditional your family is, and what the like how particular it is to your family circumstances. So India has been and is currently still largely a patriarchal society, and the family household is not much different. Often the man of the house is the decision maker, or in the case of a joint family, like I earlier mentioned, it's usually the eldest person of the house. But it can't be something generalized. We have such a huge population, and there are different types of, families have different values that they concur to. But yeah, it can't be generalized, especially in households where both parents are working professionals. So that is the case in my case. Both my parents work. Because there's a financial independence among people, each adult in the house uh, are contribute equally when important decisions are made. So there's a collective decision making in households where there is some sort of financial independence for one person. Yes, the young people don't really move out of their parents' houses. This is more of, previously it was, just a traditional thing, but now it's more of a logistical thing. If you're living in the same city as your parents, it makes sense economically and logistically to just live in the same house, maybe until you get married, or really have to move out due to traveling or something like that. But yeah, right now I don't think you can, and especially in urban areas, there's no compulsion that you have to stay with your parents or you can't move out. But like I said, if you're in the same city, then more often than less you see that people still live with their parents. uh, but yeah, so unless you're going to study in a different college or university in a different city, or you are working very, very far away from where your parents stay, then it makes sense to move out of your house. One interesting question I found is, I don't know who said this, but it said, "Mom still packs me a tiffin to college." I will shamelessly admit that this is true in my case. So I'm not proud of it, but moms are moms, and they rather have you eat home cooked food than the very appealing junk you get outside. That's what that I mean. If it were up to me, I'd probably eat outside every day, but my mom would not allow that, and it's mostly because I'm scampering 10 minutes before I have to leave, and I'm getting all the other things sorted. And so yeah, my mom packs my tiffin for me. Obviously it's not general, but then yes, moms do kind of pamper us here at home. Arranged marriage. Now, it's a very it's a concept that has evolved throughout the Indian history, you can say. It was a very, very prominent concept even up till the generation before ours. I'm sure that most of our parents got married through this arranged marriage. What it basically is, it's not where people meet you don't meet your partner. That's not how it happens. Your family meet your partner's family, and they see if you would be compatible. I mean, there would be a compatibility between you and your partner. And there are cases where people don't meet who they're marrying till the day of the marriage, and this is very common. I mean, it's not something that's very surprising. But then when it comes to my generation, I think now families they start to accept if you bring somebody home and say this is who I want to marry. So now it's more accepting. And there is also, India is such a developing country in terms of technology. You now have matrimonial websites, which is like the Tinder for arranged marriages, if I can say so. So, people have taken advantage of the concept. And like I said, it's an evolving concept, but it's not fully gone. People still see it as some sort of a last resort or something like that. And in India, the main thing is parents bear the costs of the marriage. And I'm sure you have seen that Indian weddings are really, really, really grand. So it does cost a lot of money. So usually if parents are spending so much money, they'd want to definitely have a say in it. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept. But in rural areas, still people are, it kind of forcefully made to marry somebody their community or family chooses for them. But I would definitely say that it's more open and open-minded concept. The last question is that families are warm and care a lot for others. Yes, again, it cannot be generalized, but like Vinita mentioned earlier, the concept of Atiti Devo Bhava, which translates to generally guests are like God, is something that is embedded into our psyche. Ever since we're growing up, this is what we're told. And most Indian households, even in urban areas, rural areas, wherever you go, it's a high level of hospitality with which you're welcome. Serving a beverage or snacks to the guests is a common practice. And trust me when I say that if you go to somebody's house in India and you will not leave without them, serving you a beverage or snack. Sometimes they will force you to eat even if you cannot eat it. So this is about families, a little bit about society. Some of you said that dangerous and unsafe streets. Well, it really depends in the region. In crowded areas, there is no problem. India is known for one thing, that it's very lively and busy most of the time during the day, even in the evening times. But then people don't usually wander about, past midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. on the roads. I mean, it's generally considered unsafe, unlike maybe, some place like in Europe or other countries that maybe have like a nightlife. In India, the nightlife is not that prominent. People still do stay out of their houses past midnight, but you don't see like lots of people walking on the streets. Crowded, yes, very crowded. In fact, Bangalore is a really, really crowded city. I'm sure you will notice that the moment you step outside into the airport, outside the airport, and you will see like endless swathes of cars just stuck in traffic. So that is something I'm sure you're all looking forward to. Yeah, and that's it from me on society and families. I hope I could break some myths, and I hope I could give you something to look forward to when you come here. So yeah, we're looking forward to have you guys here. Over
Thank
to
you
Shri.
Okay, moving
so
on.
much. Sorry. Sri, were you saying something?
No, nothing. You can continue.
Okay, so I noticed that there was a question in the chat, and this might be a good opportunity if anyone else, has some more questions to just ask you guys directly, if you're okay with that. So
Yes, I think you can ask us questions.
Oh yeah, okay. So about the same-sex marriages, well, that's a really good question. So I mean, the LGBTQI community in India is pretty, it's pretty prominent. We have pride marches too. But then the thing is, now the generations are slowly getting educated about same-sex marriages, about LGBTQIA communities. Our previous generation, I would say, had very minimal education about, then how natural it is as a process. But then you can see in India, if you do, especially in some of the urban places, you can see that you will have transgender people on the streets who basically, I'm not sure exactly how it is, but it is very prominent that transgender people don't really get that much of work opportunities in India. And so they are forced to go on the streets and beg for money, or in something equivalent of that, which is, which makes some people, homophobic or transphobic. But then I would definitely say that the awareness about LGBTQI communities are on the rise. There are a lot of institutions that help, provide opportunities for LGBTQI communities. A lot of companies, especially in Bangalore, because it's like the IT hub, a lot of companies make it their motto to make sure that their offices are friendly to any person, regardless of sexual orientation or gender or anything. So the awareness is definitely on the rise. About parents being accepting about same-sex marriages, well, again, it depends on your household, how educated you, what the level of education of the family is. I wouldn't say that it is completely, it's a completely accepted process, but I'm sure the next generation, that is our generation, when we have kids, I'm sure that we will be in a much better position to understand same-sex marriage and LGBTQIA communities.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that.
Are there any more questions on the call?
So Ankara had a question about the spices we use in India, and funny you should ask this, because every household has a spice box, in the sense that we have like 5 to 6 major spices that we always have in stock, that is required for almost everything we do. So these are something like cloves and black peppers, red chili powder, turmeric powder, and coriander seeds, and even sometimes let me just translate. It's a cinnamon, and even some really fancy spices that come from barks of trees, and we just put them in to add flavor, but not really consume them. So if you find something like bay leaves or cinnamon sticks or something in the food you eat in India, it's important that you put them aside and you don't eat them, because they're just added to increase the flavor of the rice or whatever you're eating, and it's not something that you're supposed to consume. So just keep that in mind when you're here, that all these fancy looking, there'll be some spices in the form of stars, and they really add to the richness of we have this dish called pulao, which is like a rice, really flavored up rice. So, and I would say the spiciness of the food is not affected by the spices. So in every household, we all have an acceptable amount of spice, in the sense that in my neighbor's house, they eat more spicy food than we do, even though we're from the same culture and we're essentially from the same city. So it really depends on the household, and sometimes we can't tolerate that amount of spice, or they say our food is not spicy enough for them. So there's always I would say a debate on the correct level of spiciness. But when you're traveling here in India and you eat out in restaurants, it's all mild. They know that people come from different backgrounds, and say people from states like Rajasthan, they don't eat that spicy food as people from Andhra Pradesh, which is another neighboring state. So again, out in restaurants, they keep it balanced, but at home and during festivals, that's when we really spice it up, I would say. So I hope that answers the questions about spices.
All right, do we have any more questions? This has been really, really informative. All right, it looks like not. So if you do decide that you have more questions, please feel free to put those questions into the chat. And now we'll be moving on to the survival kit. So I'll hand it over to Shri.
Okay. Hello guys, Sri Guru here, and I'll take you through a few basic tips that you may need when you're here in India. It'll really help you if you can, make a small note of this somewhere. So yeah, when you land in India, you may be welcomed by any of these sites. Now, there are many street food sellers out on the streets because there are many busy people around and they just want to grab a bite before they head out to work. Or in the break, they'll come down and have a small cup of coffee or a small snack. But the thing is, these dishes are not prepared with good oil or with hygienic means. So we suggest that you do not try these. You can find the same dishes in good restaurants. So if you really, really want to try these dishes, buy them from there. And these foods are normally exposed to dust and flies and all of that. So it's not it's unhygienic. So we may be immune to it because we're used to and exposed to all of this from a very young age. But you may not be. So we suggest that you do not purchase food from these places. Now, second, you'll find, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, dogs and cows on the streets. Yes, it is true, but not in urban areas. It's more prominent in the rural areas. But yeah, if you do come across a situation where you're standing and there's a cow or a dog in front of you, please do not run because they'll be suspicious and they'll come running after you, and it's not a pleasant sight. Anyway, so try and stay calm and walk away from the dog or the cow. Do not pet them because they have not been vaccinated and you're prone to diseases. Next, beggary is prominent in India. Most of the population is below the poverty line. So yeah, they're more prominent in tourist spots and busy junctions and in temples and all of that. So normally they do come chasing you. So if you do offer to donate, please ask them to share the amount so that, if you donate to one person, the others will also want some. So you donate and ask them to share amongst themselves. If you do not want to donate, it may be hard to get rid of them. So you go with a firm no and you just walk away. Next, the image on the left is the symbol of the rupee, which is the Indian currency. Now, 1 rupee roughly 72 rupees roughly translates to $1. So you can do your math. Now, you can exchange your currency at airports, and we suggest you bring currency from back home because it's not easy to find exchange centers here in India. So yeah, often if you do not find the rupee symbol on products, you'll find the letters R and S. It is the same thing because the rupee was a symbol that was that came into existence a few years ago. So until then, there was RS that was written. So that is the price that you find on products. And we encourage you to carry cash because many places do not have the card, even though, you find them in big stores and restaurants and all of that. For things like transport, usually cash is the most easier, means of currency. We suggest you carry denominations of 50, 100 and 500 rupees while you go shopping because these are the most widely used and they're very convenient. Now hand over the exact amount as much as possible because being someone who doesn't live in India, you're prone to, being cheated. So it's easier to hand over the exact amount than expect the change in return. Now, Indian food is spicy. We have all seen that. So normally in restaurants, there's a small symbol which suggests how spicy the dish is. You may find chilies, 1, 2, or 3, depending on the spice. And if there are no chilies, then it means that it's not that spicy. But again, Indian spice is nothing compared to Western spice. So we suggest you do not order the ones with chilies if you're not someone who eats a lot of spice. Now, water bottles, it's not easy to find pure water in India. You're not supposed to drink from taps because that's not purified and you're prone to diseases again. We suggest you carry water bottles and use the filters that are available at tourist destinations to fill your bottles. Or use water filters, anything is fine. Now make the most of the water stations that you find when you go visiting places because it's not easy to find water stations everywhere. You'll find them mostly in tourist destinations. And some brands that you can buy from are Himalayan, Bisleri, Kinley, Aquafina. But we encourage you to carry your bottles from your hotel. And this will be your biggest luggage when you're going, touring the city. Now, the emergency number in India is 108. In case of any emergency, please call this number. It's for your medical purposes, police, fire, anything. It's just one number, which is tax-free, so you won't be charged for it. Also, buying an Indian SIM card does help, because in most places you won't be able to connect to the various networks that are available. So we suggest you buy an Indian SIM card once you land in India or from back home. And in India, you do not find toilet papers easily. You do find them in high-end restaurants, but usually you find this water jet, that's the spray that you can see at the bottom left corner. It shoots out a jet of water, which you can use. And in India, smoking and drinking in public spaces is not allowed. So there are spaces available throughout the city which you can use, but in public spaces it is against the law. Also, rolling of your cigarettes is not encouraged, because it can be misunderstood. It can be misunderstood for a drug, and you can be put behind bars for the same. Please do not carry drugs, as they're really illegal, and it's very hard to get your way out of that. And carrying large amounts of alcohol is also not suggested, because it's against the law. And in the bottom right, you can see the socket, the electrical socket. So normally that's how it is. We suggest you carry an adapter, which is similar to that, to which you can connect all your devices and charge them. Now, for transport, you can use any of these 4 means. The first one, the public buses. Now, these are the most well-connected means of public transport. Often the nameplates are not written in English, so please inquire with the driver or the ticket collector. You can identify them because they'll be wearing a brown shirt and pant. That's the uniform for the bus conductor and the driver. So make sure you ask the right people before getting onto a bus. Now, these this means of transport is really well connected, but at the same time it's cheap, and because of which it's again crowded. Now, you're prone to pickpocketing, so make sure you have your belongings with you at all times, because yes, when it's crowded, you encourage or entertain all sorts of activities. Now, the second means of public transport is the metro rail. That's the local train here in Bangalore, and it's called through various names in different cities. So in Bangalore, it's called the metro, and in Mumbai, it's called the local train, and even that's well connected. And metro is one of the cleanest means of transport we have currently, but it is not well connected. Again, it's convenient to use it to reach most places of the city, so we suggest you use that. The auto rickshaws that you can see on the top right corner, that they are the taxis in here in India. Normally, you can book the auto rickshaws or the cabs through apps like Ola and Uber. We suggest you download the same before you come here. And these are the safest means of transport, because you get a price before you board, so you know how much to pay and you won't be cheated. We suggest you book the cabs and the auto rickshaws beforehand and share the status with one of them, one of your close friends or one of us or anything like that. Because you can share your rides, so we know where you are exactly. So if something happens, we can respond. Moving on, in India, the average temperature in September will be around 22 degrees Celsius. So we suggest you carry light clothing, but again, there is rainfall, so make sure you have cover for that. We suggest you do not pack heavy, winter wear. A jacket or a sweater will do. That's enough for Indian weather in September and October. But yes, expect rains. And in some temples, if you haven't seen one, that's about a similar structure. If you find similar structure, that's for the temple. In some temples, you're not allowed to, walk in wearing shorts, or you're not allowed to wear slippers into most temples. So please do not do that, because you will be, offending the religious principles, and they may get really offended by that. So please do not walk in with your slippers. Normally you'll find lockers outside the temple gates where you can leave your footwear or your luggage or all of that. And in some places, you're not allowed to carry your electronics inside too. So make sure you know which places they are, and you can leave your electronics back home or at the locker itself. Now, these are your essentials that we suggest you carry. Sunscreen, because India is a tropical country and there's a lot of sunshine throughout the day. So you're prone to skin, sunburns. And yeah, we suggest you carry a sunscreen with high SPF to protect you from the sun. Tissues, yes, because water is not easily available. And if you want to clean your hands, tissues are your only choice, because it's good water is not available in most parts of the country. And hand sanitizer, yes, to keep your hands clean, because suppose India is, it's not a clean place. So yes, you do get your hands dirty and you can't find water before, consume food. So we suggest you carry a small, bottle of hand sanitizer with you as well. Medication, yes, in India, you can buy medicine, the common medicines without a prescription. So you go to a drugstore in India, you call them medical shops. So you go to them and you can ask for, small, you can cite the, if you have a fever or cold, you can tell the chemist there and he will, give the medication. You don't have to go with the name of the medication either. So you can do that for, they'll encourage all of that. But we do suggest you carry some medicines from home so that you can, you don't have to go around looking for the same. Yes, Bangalore is a pretty place, and if you have time, we suggest you, visit a few places in Bangalore. On the right, you see that wonderful view that is Nandi Hills. That is about around 30 kilometers from the center. So it's normally it's a, something that all Bangaloreans want to do, catch the sunrise from Nandi Hills, because it's a magnificent view. And at least people our age, we really, want to go there on a morning ride, get a bike or car or drive up there to get the view. So we suggest you do try that out if you do find time. Next, you find Cubbon Park. That's one of the two prominent parks here in Bangalore. So in Bangalore, in case, you don't want to touch or pet dogs on the street, you can come here. People bring their dogs for morning walks and they're really friendly and you can have a lot of fun petting them. And it's a nice place, a nice cool place if you want to, relax and have a nice walk in the evenings. And next, if you're into science, we suggest you visit the Vishveshwaraya Museum. That is again in the city center as well. So Vishveshwaraya Museum and Nehru Planetarium, they are the two, science exhibit places in Bangalore. So we suggest you visit them if you're really keen on science. They have a lot of exhibits throughout the year, so you'll be lucky to catch, I don't know what you'll be lucky to catch, but it'll be really interesting. Next is the Vidhan Sabha. This is the political building of the city, because Bangalore is the capital of Karnataka and all the parliamentary proceedings happen here. And it's really well lit up during the night. So many people go there, it's a selfie point. So if you want good pictures, you can always go there. Now, Cubbon Park, the museum and the Vidhan Sabha, all of them are located close by. I think it'll be a day trip for you max. So we suggest you, try these out. Next, these are the places that are close to Bangalore. So if you're arriving early or leaving a day late, you can try and visit one of these places. I'm sure most of you have seen the Mysore Palace. I think it was on one of the team calls. So yeah, Mysore is one of the royal cities of the state and the country. So you'll find you can find many well-preserved buildings from the royal age, and you get a free tour, so you can go and look at how the kings used to live, what their everyday routines were, what they used, all their utensils, all of that is well preserved. And that's about 4 hours from Bangalore. So it does well for a good day trip. Next to that, you can find, that's the picture from Hampi. That is one of the ancient regions of the state. Now there are well preserved structures from ancient times. That is the most famous one. That is the stone chariot that you can see. It's about an overnight journey from Bangalore. So if you're keen on archaeological sites, you can go there, and there are really some interesting, well preserved sites there. Next to that is the Jog Falls. It's one of the highest falls in Asia. So you'll be deafened. The noise is very deafening, and it's a very nice and pretty place to go. So if you have time, we suggest you go there as well. Next, if you're into wildlife, you can find the Nagarhole Wildlife Sanctuary. That's again, if you're, it's home to tigers, and tigers are the national animal of the country. So they're well protected, and you can see them on their own. So that's one place that you would like to go. And next to that is Coorg, which is again many Bangaloreans go to Coorg to have the weekend off. So it's more of a weekend trip. But again, if you're planning to go to Mysore, then Nagarhole, the wildlife sanctuary, is really close by. So you can do both of them together. And if you want to go to Jog Falls, then the Coorg, which is the hill station, is again close by. So you can do all of that in one trip. And if you're arriving from the north, then Hampi becomes one of your destinations. That's the archaeological site there. So yeah, I hope you can, modify your travel plans accordingly if you wish to visit these places.
Sorry to interrupt. Just one heads up. So right now, if maybe you've caught the news lately, in Karnataka, there's been very heavy rains. So some of the places like Hampi, have taken serious rainfall. So right now, as it is, a lot of these places are either inundated or flooded with a lot of rain. So hopefully, maybe by the time you come, the rain subsides and these places are, the roads are nice, open, but right now there's not a lot of transport going on at that place because it's pretty dangerous with landslides and stuff. So I suggest that you make your travel plans to these places, slightly later on or closer to when you actually want to go. You don't have to book stuff, like months in advance. So yeah, just a heads up for those who really want to travel to these places.
Okay, yeah, that was one point that I missed. Thank you, Smaran. Yes, I think we have come to the end of the call. That is Shukriya in Hindi, which means thank you.